CJNU 93.7 FM Nostalgia Radio in Winnipeg is the proud broadcast partner of the Health Sciences Centre Foundation Bannatyne Legacy Circle Celebration. Presented by Johnston Group in partnership with CanAd-Ins, with additional support from Belfosh Signs and outstanding branding. I'm Adam Glynn, and I had the pleasure of putting together this very special broadcast during a very unusual year. If you missed any of the programme, you can listen back to it in full on the Health Sciences Centre Foundation website and at cjnu.ca. Of course, in putting together a 2-hour radio programme, not all of the material that we recorded makes it to the final broadcast. But, exclusively for you, we have access to all of the bits that were left on the cutting room floor. And so I'm delighted to introduce the full conversation I recorded with Kevin McFadden in late 2020. Joining me in the virtual studio, Kevin McFadden. Kevin, it is a pleasure to have you here.
Adam, it's great to be here.
So, Kevin, as we speak to you, where are you located right now? My virtual studio is in the corner of a bedroom in St. Vital. Where is yours?
Yeah, not much different, Adam. I'm in a corner of a bedroom in River Heights.
Very nice, very nice. And I think the interesting thing about the realities of continuing to live life as normally as possible while presented with unique challenges is that we find really clever ways to make things that are completely ridiculous absolutely normal. Mm-hmm. So how have you been finding things?
How true. Yeah, you know what? It is amazing. And I think in this experience that we're all in collectively together, it does make you realize how adaptive we actually are when we have to be and how resilient we can be. Not discounting any of the struggles that, we're all feeling mentally and emotionally, financially, physically. But, we are a resilient lot, I believe. And I do get the sense that we're all in this together and we're all pulling together.
And Kevin, for the benefit of those who have never met you before, whether in person or on the radio, can you just share a little bit about yourself?
Married to my wife, Colleen, for 24 years. 3 daughters, aged 22, 20, and 18, Alexa, Ashley, and Roxanne, in that order. 2 of my daughters are studying business at UBC. We were fortunate to be able to visit them this fall out there. And my youngest, Roxanne, is at first-year university online here in Manitoba.
Very cool. So they made it out to UBC okay?
They did, yeah. They packed up and drove out in late August, and they are studying online like most students are today. Our middle daughter, Ashley, she plays hockey at UBC, so she is... her bubble is our hockey team. And my oldest daughter, who's in her last year, Alexa, she has some long-standing roommates that she lives with. So those are their current families out in BC. That's
pretty cool. And having one sort of studying from home, is she at home with you?
She is, yeah. Her original plan was to go away as well. She decided to stay home, and it's one of those silver linings. I think with COVID, it's really nice having Roxanne at home. And she's an adult now, and so we have 3 adults under the roof instead of 2.
It must be a slightly surreal experience though for you as parents, having to make sure that Roxanne has all the tools that she needs to be able to study effectively, because I know we already touched upon it a little bit, but certainly in the world of work, it can be really hard to get your head into the right space when you're working in your home.
Yeah, that's a really good observation, Adam. I would say this. This environment they're in has been difficult on everybody. It's not lost on me personally that my youngest daughter, Roxanne, who had, her high school graduation modified last year and her first year residence plans modified. It's been difficult, but she, like her friends, like, a lot of students are resilient and doing their best to, create a normal situation out of an environment that no one would have imagined, students would be put into.
So, Kevin, you were not born in Winnipeg, but do you know what? We're not going to hold that against you.
Well, I was born in Saskatchewan, but I'd say I'm firmly a Blue Bomber fan. So
That's
I
fair.
don't know that. Yeah, I spent my early years in Saskatchewan. My father worked for the Hudson's Bay Northern Store Division, so we lived in towns all across Saskatchewan and moved to Winnipeg uh, when I was about 8 years old. So Winnipeg has been my home. I did leave for a period of about 8 years upon graduation from university, but the roots are deeply planted here in Winnipeg and in Manitoba.
What do you think about northern Manitoba? Because northern Manitoba is an amazing part of the country, an amazing part of this province. Obviously, it has some unique challenges based on, well, demographics and geography, you could say. But tell me about what you think about it.
I love northern Manitoba. It's one of my favorite places on the planet. I just have really, really amazing memories as a kid in the summers growing up in Flin Flon. When we were younger, we did live in Thompson, Manitoba. I've been to the Paw. I was really fortunate recently to be able to go up north near Churchill, almost at the Nunavut border,
Hmm.
for a fishing trip, and just the beauty and the majesty of our northern part of our province is absolutely incredible.
And I think it's really important that we just always remind ourselves Manitoba does not end at the Perimeter Highway. There is a lot out there, and there's a lot of great stuff out there. And in this particularly crazy year, I know travel is not always the thing that one can do, but when it is safe to do so, it's so nice to be able to see things that are part of the tapestry of the wider community and support smaller businesses too.
Yeah, that's really well said, Adam. I think one of the things I hope that comes out of this experience that we're in today is that people do explore more in their backyard, because, as you alluded to, we do have so many amazing resources and beauty and neat places to see and people to meet.
Having parents that work in an industry that means that you move a bit. It's got to be surreal when you are younger.
Yeah, I reflect back. I mean, it was a long time ago, but I remember it being difficult to move from what I thought was my home at the time in Prince Albert, Saskatchewan, to Winnipeg as an 8 year old. But I'm sure there's some life lessons that were taught at that age by having to be, adaptive and make new friends at a young age. And I probably applied some of those life lessons when I moved away from Winnipeg when I was, my early 20s. But you know what I think it does for you when you're able to live in different places. I think it firmly roots you when you put the quote unquote around your home. And Manitoba is definitely home for Colleen and I and our family.
That's wonderful. Um, Tell me about your family, like your parents.
My family's all from Flin Flon, Manitoba originally.
Nice.
My parents got married really young, and Dad took a job in that retail space, and we traveled around, lived around in a number of different places. As mentioned, moved to Winnipeg when I was younger. Well, I was the oldest of four, and I had a younger brother, Trent, and two sisters, Lori and Darcy. And Trent, at age 3, when I would have been about 7 or 8 years old, was diagnosed with leukemia. So he fought that battle for about 7 years and passed away at age 10. Uh, as a result of leukemia. My mother in that process became a really knowledgeable advocate for good healthcare, and was just a tremendous support for Trent and our family during the time. And through her experience of learning about the medical system and some of the opportunities for improvement and enhancement, she got involved with a group of parents who started the first Ronald McDonald House in Manitoba back in, I'm going to say, the early 80s. And so she was a founding board member, dedicated volunteer, and definitely learned a lot from her through that process. And I think some of that early learning lent itself to some of the roles that I've had at different organizations, including Ronald McDonald House in Saskatchewan and in Manitoba. My father was, the classic hardworking, dedicated, nose down, really loyal individual. One of those classic loyal employees that just did everything for the company and also for his family. So he can look back fondly on a very proud career.
Clearly, you had an amazing family unit. Sounds like your dad was, the guy when it came to just, if you need to get something done, going to get it done. And clearly, your mum was passionate and dedicated, and weirdly, through the challenges that she faced through the loss of a son, found something that she was incredibly talented at, and it became a real vocation. You even mentioned it. Clearly, for you, it had an impact on you because it certainly spoke into what you ended up pursuing in your life. What kind of things were going through your mind as you were progressing through school and thinking about, I don't know what I want to do with myself? What was it that kind of nudged you in the direction you went into?
I studied business at the faculty that's now called Asper at University of Manitoba. I had the opportunity to train and mentor in an amazing company called London Life at the time. I was hired into the employee benefits sales and service division, and went through a really, really amazing training program with about 20 peers at the time. Some of those people, and this is 30 years ago, are some of my best friends today. And had the opportunity to move to Toronto and mentor and learn and see the big city. And long story short, met my wife on a trip out to Calgary at Stampede one year.
Nice.
And that brought me back west to Saskatoon with London Life. And then the opportunity in 1998 opened up to start my business here in Manitoba, in Winnipeg. So we moved back here.
Very nice. But, a degree in commerce and looking at working in, benefits, pensions, it's not exactly, what can I say? It's not the most sexy career choice, but it is an engaging career choice.
For sure. I just feel fortunate to have found the industry that I'm in still to this day. If you would have asked me while I was studying business if I was going to graduate and quote unquote sell insurance for a living, I would have probably laughed it off. But I learned a lot about the industry through my employer, and learned the importance of camaraderie and teamwork and hard work. And doing the right thing for your customers. So it was an invaluable training and learning experience, and I quite frankly, I believe I lucked into it.
And you made an incredibly important point there: camaraderie, teamwork, and doing what is best for your customers. Because not everybody who is in business or is practicing a business themselves is necessarily thinking about those things first. So it's incredibly good that you found those sort of altruistic skills very quickly in your career and decided, that's the way I want to operate. Because anybody running a business who can do those sort of three things first should be very successful. Because if you prioritize doing what is right for others, then usually success follows.
Yeah, that's a really good observation, Adam. And I think if more people followed that philosophy or belief, they would probably find success quicker than the shortcuts. But I do believe, mentoring is a really key component of any career, whether it's, volunteer work, not-for-profit, government, for-profit, doesn't matter. If a young person or any person has the opportunity to mentor under what you may call a master, it's just a great opportunity. So my daughters, who one will be graduating this year from business and the second in a couple of years, one of the things I'm really encouraging them to do once they graduate is not look for the best job, look for the best mentoring opportunity.
That is an incredibly good point. And I would say most people who are going through education would benefit from having a parent or a mentor type figure who can nudge them in that direction, because not everyone gets that kind of guidance, and that kind of guidance is pretty critical as people make life choices. I'm just thinking a little bit more about the way that people do business, and I'm thinking specifically about the way that people do business here in Winnipeg. And, I've lived and worked in a few different cities, and I grew up in the UK. Never have I found a community where people in the charitable, non-profit, for-profit, business, every sector imaginable, really understand that in order to have common goals and get more done, you work collaboratively. And people across the spectrum are so willing to sit down with each other and say, well, what can we try? We've not done that before. Why not? Let's give it a go. And I think people in other cities balk at the idea that you can achieve these kind of things when you work collaboratively. I mean, you had an opportunity to work in different cities in Canada. What's your read on Winnipeg and the way that Winnipeggers and Manitobans approach kind of doing things collaboratively?
Yeah, one thing I do know about Winnipeg compared to other cities, around the country, around the globe, there is a real sense of community that exists here, and you hear that from people that move to this city and this province from other parts of the country, other parts of the world, and you do recognize that when you live here. I do get the sense that we're all in this together, and it's collaborative. And I think what's been going on with the divisive nature of politics in the United States, I think it's so shocking to myself, my family, and so many of my friends, because that's just not the way we think here. That's not the way we do things. We may have political, differences, but I believe we respect everybody's opinion here, and it isn't so divisive. And I think that's one of the great things about this city and province and country that we live in. I've got a number of really good friends in the United States, for example, and I've been communicating with them consistently during this COVID environment and U.S. pre-election election, and they say the ones that have visited here just really admire the culture and the sense of community that we do have. There's got to be that common ground and understanding, and that's what I think makes great communities work.
Kevin, you've had a career both in terms of business and in terms of what you've done in volunteering, which we're going to get into, where you have had a huge focus on education. I mean, we've talked a lot about mentorship and about education. Just briefly, I want to touch on the fact that you decided to write the book on what you do in your day job. Literally.
Yeah. So back to this, non-interesting, non-sexy industry that I work in. There are components of it that are really important. And I found, when I was trying to help my clients best understand, their role and responsibility as it comes to benefits, pension, wellness for their people, their tribes, their employees, there just didn't seem to be a resource. I kept looking for the book that I could buy for my clients and say, here, if you give this a read, it'll give you a real good understanding of what's important to think about, and maybe some of the decisions that you have to make might come easier. So I looked high and low, and the book didn't exist, or the resource didn't exist. So I made the commitment, decide to write the book. So I assembled about a dozen of my trusted advisors and mostly clients, and I said, look, I'm writing this book for you, and it's going to touch upon some of the important things you need to think about as you protect your employees, and you have that responsibility to make sure that not only are you protecting your employees, but you're building out a platform that's competitive so that you can attract and retain the best people. So I wrote the book, and with the assistance of most of my clients, it was a really, really great experience. It allowed me the opportunity to travel a little bit, speak about the book. It allowed me to share the book with many, many people. And it was a really great experience. It was, I must admit, it was a lot more arduous than I first envisioned to get done, but really proud of the end result. I'm glad that I was able to share some of my, at that time, 25 years of industry knowledge.
Yeah, no kidding. And when you're coming from that place of the reason that you want to do this is because you were looking for that resource and it wasn't there, and you've spent a lifetime telling everyone, you should learn and be informed, and just wanting to give back. And I just get that feeling of you wanting to give back pretty much in everything that you have chosen to turn your hand to in life.
Well, thank you. I don't consciously think about it that way, I guess, but I think it just relates back to what I mentioned about the importance of mentorship from your family, from the friends that you choose, and definitely your professional associations.
And you, in terms of what you have done with your life outside of the world of work, have thrown yourself heart and soul into some incredible causes that have great impact on our communities. Clearly, you did take some inspiration from your mum in terms of the time you spent at Ronald McDonald House. So tell us a little bit about that.
Boy, so from a young age, I recognized the importance of Ronald McDonald House as an entity to support families who not only are dealt the news of a, I think at the time Ronald McDonald House was almost exclusively for young cancer patients, but it broadened from there. But picture this: you're a family, with a child, and your child gets a cancer diagnosis, and you live in a rural community that doesn't have the necessary treatment that you can get locally, so you have to drive or fly to the big city, which you might be unfamiliar with, and your child's in the hospital for treatment, maybe staying in the hospital, and you're trying to find accommodations, family, friends, hotels, campgrounds. So what Ronald McDonald House did is it filled that gap. It created a safe community for families that were seeking treatment for their children. And what I learned about the entity is not only to provide a very affordable place for families to stay, prepare their own meals. What came from Ronald McDonald House, and a lot of the feedback we received from the families, was just the support they felt living with other families living the same thing that they did. So I was fortunate to learn that at a young age. When I was in university, I used to organize socials, fundraisers for Ronald McDonald House. I worked as a weekend manager, staying there, supporting the families and looking after the property. Joined the board of Ronald McDonald House when I lived in Saskatoon, and was fortunate to join the board when I moved back to Winnipeg to start my business. And I eventually ended up being president of the board, which was a really meaningful experience that I'm grateful for.
I have to do a little bit of a deep dive on the fact that you went from actually being in the house as a weekend manager to eventually being board chair. That must give you a heck of a lot of perspective on, you're looking at long-term goals and what the organisation can do, but you can also speak from experience, having literally been on the front line with those kids and those families.
Yeah, I think it perspective is the right word. It gives you perspective, and I think it instills your belief further in the organization when you're able to see the impact it has on families. And it's been a really great experience being part of that organization, because my kids were exposed to it at a young age. My wife Colleen was chair of their annual fashion show gala, which is turned into a massive event for Ronald McDonald House. It makes me very proud. My mother was the first chair of the fashion show, so to have my mother and my wife both chairing that event over time, the fact that I've been able to be involved, just really super satisfying.
That's really, really awesome. You have done so much. Seriously, you have done so much, Kevin, in terms of giving back. And I think, I don't know, I can just assume that it is hard baked into you from the experiences you've had in life, from the upbringing that you've had. You made the choice to get involved with the Health Sciences Centre. What was it that prompted you to first get involved?
Yeah, you know what, Adam, like many organizations, it starts with a call from, in my case, it was Linda. And Linda said, Kevin, I was fortunate to do business with Linda. And Linda said, would you be interested in joining the board of the Health Sciences Center Foundation? And then at that time, I was pretty heavily engaged with Ronald McDonald House. And I said to Linda, I'm very flattered that I'd even be considered. At this time, however, I'm going to have to decline because of my commitment to Ronald McDonald House. To Linda's credit, a couple of years later, she followed up with me, asked me the same question. And at that point in time, I agreed to join the board of directors.
So what did you think you were letting yourself in for at that point?
You know what, I didn't know. One of the things that is, a couple of things that are important to me is healthcare, and good healthcare, and the environment. So, The Health Sciences Center Foundation, once I learned more about their mandate and how important their work is, it wasn't a hard decision to get committed to the organization.
So you've been involved with the foundation for a number of years. You served as chair for a period of time. You've now been made an honorary director, which is pretty cool. What is it that you think was the best thing that the foundation was able to achieve during your time on the board?
Yeah, well, really good question. Man, we've had such a great board, and there's still such a great board. Many of my peers are still on the board. I would say most memorable and meaningful was the opportunity to be part of a large campaign called the Breakthrough Campaign, and this goes back a number of years. It was a pretty ambitious campaign. I believe our goal at the time was to raise, if it wasn't $20 million, it was $25 million for what is now the Clayson Institute for Advanced Medicine. And I was really fortunate to be able to work alongside Hubert Clayson at the time, speaking about mentoring. And I had never really been involved with a major capital campaign, so there was a lot to learn. And Hubert took me under his wing and kind of showed me the ropes of how to, raise money for an important cause like the one we were engaged with. And in the end, we were successful in raising the money. And in the end, very happy to say that Hubert Clayson was able to have his family name attached to the top of the building, not only because of the significant financial commitment that he had made, but this really strong efforts, the driving force to make sure that campaign succeeded.
It's incredible when you get to see tangible benefits. A capital campaign is a challenging fundraising activity, full stop. But when you finally see shovel in the ground or something actually starting to happen, it's just an amazing feeling, right?
It is. Like all capital campaigns, they start with an idea and then some printed materials, maybe a video, and the volunteers get out there and they ask. That it's quite that simple. You have to make a lot of asks. Hopefully appeal to the businesses or the families that you're speaking to about the importance of the work that is being undertaken and the project that was being worked on. And fast forward to many years after the start of the campaign, to be able to walk through the Clayson Institute and see all of the amazing, literally world-class treatment and research and diagnostics that's going on, it's quite satisfying. Capital campaigns, especially large ones, based on experience, take a long time, but the Breakthrough campaign that raised the money for the Clayson Institute was super satisfying.
You had a successful period of involvement on the board at the HSC Foundation, but when you decided that it was time for you to wind down, you kind of made the same choice that your predecessors did in terms of quietly tapping someone on the shoulder and making a phone call and going, I think you might have the right skill set for this.
Yeah, I think one of the important things about any leadership role is I believe it's incumbent upon the person who is departing to be very involved with their succession. I wanted to leave the Health Sciences Center Foundation in a better place than when I got there. And to me, the number one thing that was required to do that was to be involved in the process of finding a really strong successor. So Jonathan Lyon, the current president of the Health Sciences Center Foundation, him and I had collaborated and made a short list, and Tina Jones was top of the list. So both John and I had a personal relationship with Tina, and I think we both approached her separately and together. And I believe the answer at first was no, but we persisted, and fortunately Tina said yes, and she's done an amazing job with her fellow board members and have taken the foundation to the next level and allowed the Health Sciences Center Foundation to work on some projects that are very, very important, very, very beneficial to our community, and literally puts the Health Sciences Center on strong footing as a world-class medical facility.
So as people think about the impact that HSC has on our community, which when you really sit down and think about it is huge, because as John Lyon often says, it's not just Winnipeg's hospital, it's Manitoba's hospital. And beyond that, succession planning clearly is hugely important. And you served your time and you made sure that you were handing things over to another safe pair of hands. And the board of a foundation is always there to try and obviously raise more money for the organisation and find the right causes and things to invest that money into. But the reason that we have the opportunity to sit down and chat in the virtual studio, of course, is because we're talking about the Bannatyne Legacy Circle and we're celebrating the impact that can be had through legacy giving. Why is it important that people should consider making a legacy gift? Not just to the HSC Foundation, but to any cause that really means something to them?
That's a really good question, Adam. And it's an area, it's a subset of philanthropy that is not new, but it really hasn't, based on my experience, received the traction that I do believe it deserves. It is really, really important. This subset would be under the category of what we call planned giving in the not-for-profit space. And the Health Sciences Center Foundation, from my perspective, is doing a great job. In fact, in my opinion, leading in that space through the establishment of the Bannatyne Legacy Circle. And it's like anything. It's getting out and talking to families and individuals about the importance of, in our case with the Health Sciences Center Foundation, world-class medical treatment, and getting families and individuals to think about what is their legacy. And when you have the opportunity to sit down and as a family think about what is it that your legacy is at the end of it all, we're all on this finite plane. It becomes pretty clear, I think, to people that, yeah, it is important to leave a legacy. And a legacy can be, a number of things. It's how you want to be remembered in some people's eyes. But every person has the capacity to leave a gift, a bequest. And it's really important work that the not-for-profits, including the Health Sciences Center Foundation, speak to individuals and families about, what is your legacy? And when Colleen and I, my wife Colleen and I, sat down and started talking about, what is our legacy? We've fortunate to work with a gentleman by the name of Patrick O'Connor with a company called Unity Insurance and Blackwood Planning. Pat made it pretty clear to us the importance of setting aside a bequest, a gift in our planning, our will planning, to align with what we believe in. And Colleen believes firmly in mental health and female sports, especially hockey. And I believe in the environment and healthcare. So my choice has been the Health Sciences Center Foundation and Ducks Unlimited Canada.
And it's critical that people realize that it's not a difficult conversation to have, and it's not something that one should put off, because it's about, in much the same way as we've discussed about choices that you've made during your career today, it's about finding the relevant information, doing the research, getting the reading done, and then making an informed choice. And it's not a complex process, but it's about making an intelligent choice that is investing in the future of your community.
I couldn't agree more, Adam. We spend more time planning our formerly our vacations than we do our wills and estates and our legacy. And I think with a little bit of focus on that, I think people would quickly come to the conclusion that, yeah, it is important that I leave something behind for a cause that I believe in.
You know, over the course of our conversation today, I think, personally, I feel through your work, volunteerism, through life, you are incredibly dedicated to helping others, whether it be through better education and mentorship, whether it be through care, whether it be through support. And I sincerely hope that people coming away from our conversation today will be inspired and maybe will aspire to take that same approach, because it's a really, really good way to operate in whatever field you find yourself in. And it's just a really, really good way to make sensible choices, not just for the day-to-day, but when it comes to supporting things that you care about in terms of making that investment in the future.
Thank you. That's very generous of you to say that, Adam, and I agree. I think deep down we all want to give and help, and I think leaving a planned gift is one simple way that we can all do our part.
Kevin McFadden, you are amazing, and I cannot thank you enough for your time. Thank you so much.
Adam, you made this interview really easy, and I appreciate your insightfulness and the generosity of your comments, and appreciate the work that you're doing for the Health Sciences Center Foundation.
That is very kind of you, and I say it most sincerely, because if I didn't believe it, I wouldn't say it. I like your approach. Dare I say it, I like your approach, and people should really be taking a page out of your book. You've been listening to a special recording produced by CJNU 93.7 FM for the 2020 Health Sciences Centre Foundation Bannatyne Legacy Circle celebration. To learn more about the work of the HSC Foundation and the Bannatyne Legacy Circle, visit hscfoundation.mb.ca. And to find out more about Winnipeg's non-profit community cooperative radio station, CJNU 93.7 FM, head to cjnu.ca. I'm Adam Glynn. Thanks for listening.